YM, the full target. Now, I wrote a post on Friday talking about the not the obvious tests of the key support trend lines here, and noting that we don't need to go any lower. There is, however, a chance that we might go lower, and I'll be talking about that when we get to the RTH charts. But in the meantime, on the futures, reach the possible near miss target on the buy signal here. Could this be a head and shoulders forming? Yes, it could. In Q, could this be a head and shoulders forming? Yes, it could. RTY, could this be a head and shoulders forming? Most definitely. YM, could this be a head and shoulders forming? Yes. RTY, I would note, we've actually got a double top which broke down and still has a target somewhat lower, I think in about the 23.85 to 95 area. Looking at DAX, we've got an overall falling wedge which looks as though it's breaking up. Wouldn't be surprised to see a retest of this low though, and that would set up a nice looking level bottom. And on ESTX, we had a little level top which broke down, and hang on, wait a second. Right, the little level top support was here. That broke down and failed back into a retest of high, but of course this could be an alternate double top. So let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts. But that is the possibility. We've got a couple of days. We've got a fair sort of neutral to mildly bullish day tomorrow. We've got a bearish leading day on Tuesday. After that, I'm really not that. I'm not that. Well, I am sanguine about the possibility that we might see further decline, because on Wednesday we have a fairly strongly leaning bullish day, and on Friday we have an even more strongly bullish day with Yom Kippur on Thursday, which tends not to be a big mover. So really, the last day in the bear window that I've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is on Tuesday. After that, bullish day Wednesday, bullish day on Friday. We've got a bearish leading day next Tuesday. Bullish leaning day on Thursday the 9th. Bullish leaning day on Thursday the 16th. We got a long gap without any bearish leading days. Oh, and the bearish leading day on the 22nd. After that, we've got some bearish leading days into the end of the month, along with interspersed with some bullish leading days. But the last week of the month, we've got two bearish leading days, which are the Monday and the Wednesday on 27th and 29th. But really, it's pretty thin to all that. All right, let's have a look at the big picture charts. Okay. Right, nothing to see on the SPX ADP. I did have a look at, oh, by the way, I did draw in a possible resistance trend line here a few weeks ago, and we've now actually gone through it, marginally, but definitely. So watching the negative divergence on the monthly chart here, we could lose all that. The sell signal could fail. RSI 14 sell signal could fail as well. That comes from here though, so that would require going quite a lot larger, quite a lot higher. Okay, looking at the weekly charts, not a lot to see. And looking at we've now reached the stage where I'm actually I'm noted in a high here. Now, I haven't actually been doing that much lately because we haven't actually been that far away from the 45 DMA. So in terms of reversion to mean, we're 3.47 above. Now, actually in normal times, this is the kind of level where we could see a retracement down to the 5 DMA, but I'd be more inclined to look for that in the 4 or 5% area. Short term, this isn't particularly overbought. It wasn't particularly overbought at that high, and if we went significantly higher than that, then it still wouldn't be particularly overbought. All right, looking at the daily chart on ES, we're not going to see an RSI 5 sell signal and retest from the high from here. We had a nice test of the daily middle band. We could get a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing on a retest of the high. Same again on SPX. Again, not going to get an RSI 5 sell signal here, which are my preferred sell signals on this. In terms of the trend line that I've been watching for a while here, since this wedge broke down a few weeks ago in early August, I've been watching this. I've got that up now in about probably the 67.50 to 60 area, and if we see another leg up, that for me would be the obvious target. On the hourly chart, we've got the sell signal made target. We've now got an RSI 14 buy signal fix. That doesn't mean that we can't see another leg down with a lower low, but I'd be expecting that to play out after that. What I was saying before this retracement started was I was expecting this to form a bull flag. That flag could be formed already, or this could be A, B, C. and we do a lower low, and that completes the bull flag. Either way, I suspect that a bull flag is what we're looking at. 15-minute, nothing to see really. Is this a decent looking bear flag? It's not bad. Would it look better if we did a C wave down? Yes. But I would note that we've already tested the daily middle band, and quite often that doesn't get broken. Although the last 3 times it was tested, it was broken for a day or two. All right, let's have a look at Qs. Okay, Qs, we could see an both RSI 5 and RSI 14 sell signals forming at a retest of this high. Looking at the hourly chart, no current divergence. Again, I've got a trend line here, which I've been watching. It's significantly further above, but Qs, when it gets a decent following wind going, actually tends to go at quite a speed. I've got that currently in the 612 area. 15-minute chart, again, nothing to see. Dire. We've already got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, but a retest of the high wouldn't actually be changing anything. Again, we saw the daily middle band test. We didn't quite see that on Qs, but we got pretty close. As I was noting in my post on Friday, this hasn't got as much of a history of doing exact back tests and rising, which the other ones tend to. Looking at Dire, we've tested it. That could again be the low. Equally, we could be looking at an ABC and go a little lower. How are the flag potential topping patterns looking on here? Well, let's draw them. All right. How decent are the potential head and shoulder patterns here? Really, not bad. I know that doesn't mean they're going to play out, but I think certainly they're in play. And if we were to see another leg down, then these would look pretty decent. So I like this one. It looks pretty nice. It's very well formed. If we see a move down, this would have a target at. Hang on, wait a second. All right, bear with me a second. Let's just draw these as we go through them. Alrighty. Okay, that would be. I'll just draw them in dotted because at the moment these are currently theoretical. We don't have head and shoulders here until they start breaking down. But they may break down. And if this one were to break down, and in the next day or so, then I'd be looking for a target in about the 64.25 area. That looks a little ambitious, but we did actually see a retracement of 150 odd handles from the high here. So, that's where we'd be looking at. All right, looking at Qs. Sorry, I've got a cold again. Changing the weather. All right. Let's have a look at this. And here, this one is a less good head and shoulders, but still not bad. The right shoulders wouldn't be as nice. I don't have the match in the height between the left and the right shoulders, really. But that said, it's not bad. Could be doable. It'd have a less ambitious target just because we've got, because it's sharply upsloping. So if we were to see that, where would we be looking? Hang on. All right, there we'd be looking at a target in about the 575 area on the Qs, depending on when exactly it break down. But really, for the purposes of this examination, I'd be assuming that they would break down tomorrow and make target on Tuesday. This where we do tend to have bullish first of the month, so they do tend to be fairly consistent. All right, looking at Dire. Dire, we've got a pretty nice looking potential head and shoulders here. So let's have a look at that. And that would be this. Pretty decent quality, this one, so I like it. Let's have a look at where that would be heading. Alrighty. If we were to see a day breakdown, and as I said, if we do see this scenario play out, I'd be expecting that to play out really over Monday and Tuesday in the coming week. That would have a target, well, actually pretty close to this big support level and possible larger head and shoulder neckline in the 448, 449 area. So that would have a target in the 448 area. So that looks pretty nice too. Dire, as I said, we had a full test in the daily middle band. Now, looking at IWM, that would be a moment. Okay, IWM, we had another test of the daily middle band. Went a little lower on this one. It's for IWM, which has only broken down really once. We've had a couple of breaks which didn't actually last into the end of the day. 1, 2, 3, 4 here. That's pretty usual. And again, this may be the low. If this isn't the low, hourly chart, no divergence. 15-minute chart. Let's have a look at the possible head and shoulders there. All right. That would be the head and shoulders. And actually, that's really not bad. What would we be looking at for targets? Hang on. All right. That would have a target down in the 228 area. Now, I'm not saying these are going to play out, but in the event that we do see an ABC flag, the obvious time for that to be breakdown would be on Monday or latest Tuesday morning, and really I'd be expecting to see it done by Tuesday night at the latest. We shall see how that goes. All right, let's have a look at DAX. DAX, we've got a break back over the daily middle band. Now, that still needs to be confirmed on Monday. If we've seen the lows across the board, then I'd be leaning towards this setting up, possibly heading up into a retest of the high here at 24.6. If not, if we see a breakdown again, I'd be looking for a retest of the low at 23.3 and to set up a little level bottom. Nikkei, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fix. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal fix. We got up to the trend line that I put in as the obvious wedge resistance. Keeping an open mind, but actually this wouldn't be a bad setup for this to start retracing. Not in sync with the US market, so maybe that can do it without it. We will see how that goes. Are either of these are both, I would describe as full but relatively weak sell signals, but still valid, and we've got two of them. Waiting to see if that delivers anything. All right, great. Let's have a look at DX. Okay, DX. We've seen a move up to this resistance trend line. I'm wondering about a possible IHS neckline forming. We are looking at a potential major low on the bigger picture charts. Let's have a look at the other currency pairs and on euro. This kind of looks like a bull flag, and I'm wondering about a retest to the low on US dollar. GBP USD kind of looks like a bull flag too, and we've got a wedge which is potentially starting to break up. USD JPY. Not a bear flag, it is too large, but we've got a 60-minute sell signal that's reached possible near miss target. We did see a load of reversal signals. 6-minute buy signal on GBP USD has also reached possible near miss target. USD CAD, we've got a 6-minute sell signal fixed. Hasn't really delivered anything yet. We've got a potential pretty nice looking head and shoulders forming here. I've got the little support trend line here. Let's try that in. So it's only small, and it's only got a target back at the weekly pivot. Nonetheless, it's quite a nicely formed little pattern, and we might see that deliver. All right, let's have a look at Australian dollar. Australian dollar, this could be a bull flag. We've got a 6-minute buy signal fixed and it hasn't made target yet. NZ, we've got a weak 6-minute buy signal fixed, hasn't made target yet. This couldn't be a bull flag, but we are reaching and we've established a resistance trend line here. This could be a little falling wedge. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. Right, US dollar. US dollar, I'm looking for. We've reached the support trend line on the rising megaphone. I was talking about that. I did a post about this last week. Not sure how many people read it, but I was talking about this being a target after basically the highs in late 22, and we finally made it, and we've gone back and retested it. That has broken the rising support slightly, which for me puts this in a topping pattern, and now we're waiting to see whether this bull flag is going to play out. Now, I was explaining why. There's a lot of talk this year that, the fall in the dollar was all about the Trump administration, but actually it all happened very early on in the year and didn't necessarily have an awful lot to do with the Trump administration, in my view. And actually, if you look at when exactly that was, by the start of March, it was already down from 110 to 103. Obviously, we've come down the same again, more or less from then. How much was that was really due? I don't know, but certainly the start of tariffs wasn't helping. As you can see, that definitely boosted another leg down. But in terms of the bull flag, the question is whether, with the same Trump administration, whether this can go back up and retest the high, or if in the short term, whether or not this little double bottom can play out, that on a sustained break up over 126 would have a target up in the 104 to 104.3 area. I'm thinking this has got a decent shot, and we've got RSI 14 weekly buy signal, RSI 5 buy signal. It's nice, and we've actually got a possible monthly RSI 5 buy signal as well. This is actually a pretty nice setup for a big reversal. We do have supporting bear flag setups, i.e. inverted. So this bear flag matches the bull flag on USD. We've got a bear flag set up on the euro, which matches. We've got a bear flag set up on GBP that matches. It's nice, and I'm certainly not going to be assuming it's not going to happen until we see a lot more evidence of that. Really, that kind of evidence would only be from a sustained breakdown. Not to these levels, but well beyond these current levels. So waiting to see whether these are going to play out. I'm quite liking them. I mean, certainly on the US dollar, we've got the weekly buy signals to support, monthly positive divergence, beautiful level bottom. Let's see how it goes. At the very least, I think there's a good chance of getting back to 104, and we'll see from there. So we shall see how that goes. Apologies for the slight sniffling in the background. As I mentioned, I've got a cold. All right, on to bonds. Right, looking at ZB. Now, ZB, we broke down from this double top. We've actually made the minimum target, which was this shorter line here. So potentially, that is all done and dusted. We've got a potential double bottom forming here, and I'm wondering whether this might break up into a retest the high. On Y and ZN, we've got a pretty nice looking falling wedge here, which could be a bull flag. So again, I'm wondering about a possible retest for the high. So I'm wondering whether we're going to see a move up on bonds. Let's have a look at the bigger picture charts. And right, on TYX, we had a buy signal, RSI 5 buy signal. Obviously, the yields go up, bonds go down. So this was suggesting that bonds would go down. Bonds did go down, and the RSI 5 buy signal has now reached the possible near miss target. Looking at TNX, we had a buy signal, and that made the full target. On TLT, we had an RSI 5 sell signal, and that's reached possible near miss targets. Basically, all the daily sell signals have delivered. So the question is, what comes from here? On the hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed, suggesting that this is now about to see some upside, and we've got a beautiful little level bottom which is trying to break up. Looking at TNX, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and not really a nice looking double top here, but that is suggesting that yields are going to go down and bonds would go up, which fits. Haven't really been getting a great deal out of the hourly chart on TYX, but there's nothing to contradict that on TYX either. I'm thinking we're likely to see a rally on bonds next week, so we'll see. Okay, let's have a look at the oil charts. Okay, oil. Now, I was saying last week that we've been really trading in a range between 61 and 65.5, and we broke a buck over that at the high on Friday. Now, that was rejected quickly. We came down a buck and a half. It closed the day in the range, but I am wondering if this might be the start of a breakup, and I do have some reversal patterns that I'll be looking at for that. All of those are on the daily charts, really, but let's have a look at the hourly charts first. Okay, so that's CL, no current divergence, 60-minute sell signal fixed on heating oil. We've actually got a pretty nice looking rising wedge here, and this looks like a bearish overthrow, so I'm suggesting at least some downside could well be a serious reversal. Now, we've got a little level top here, then on a sustained breakdown, we'll be looking for a target in about the 2.36 area. Looking at RBOB, no current divergence, but again at the top of the range. NG, which is in a rather different position. This has got this one over the next 3 months. We're looking basically at another buck of upside in seasonal gains, all of which is pretty much priced into the futures already. So not an opportunity to go wrong unless it's going to go up by more than that. But I'm liking a double bottom here. There's every reason to think that we're about to see a bounce in MG, even though, to be honest, it hasn't been making much progress towards the upside. Let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And right, WTech. WTech, we've got a potential inverted head and shoulders here. Now, I'd love to see a retest of the low at 56.06, and I'm still thinking we might see that. But in the short term, I am wondering about this possible IHS, but to break over it, we need to get all the way back to 77. We have a couple of bits of decent resistance on the way. One of those is the monthly middle band, which I've got currently at 71.34, and that has been decent resistance basically since the middle of 24. We've tested it a couple of times, failed there, and gone lower. Now, the last time we failed there was only 3 or 4 months ago, and in the meantime, we've not got back to the low, which is where I was hoping to get to. But on the bigger picture, you will note we've got this falling wedge, which is broken up, and I'm looking for a reversal pattern. We do have a potential reversal pattern, and that's this inverted head and shoulders. Then it could be that we'll go up straight from here. Heating oil, we've got exactly the same pattern set up. We've got a falling wedge from the high in 22. That's broken up, looking for a reversal pattern. Here, I've got a potential inverted head and shoulders too. And again, it's not bad. It could. I'd love to see retest the lows instead, but we aren't necessarily going to get it. On gas oil, we again have almost exactly the same. We've got a falling wedge, it's broken up. We're looking for a reversal pattern. Do we have a possible IHS here? No. And that's one reason I'm thinking we will go and retest the lows. This looks an awful lot like a bear flag, although it is an awful lot closer to a retest of the low than the other two would be. I'm still leaning towards seeing a retest of the low here. We will see. Could we have any kind of reversal pattern here? Not really. You could argue a double bottom here, but it doesn't look like a double bottom. It looks like a bear flag. Bigger picture, you could argue a double bottom with a move here. It would be a lot larger than the other two, but a sustained break up to, if we're a sustained break up over 2.853 would give us a double bottom target an awful lot higher. I am wondering whether oil's ready to do that yet. I mean, economies are slowing. US had some nice GDP numbers, but it's unlikely to last. The rest of the world is slowing mainly because, of course, trade is slowing down, and that's been quite a lot of world growth for quite a while. Which oil tends to be a casualty when that goes down. We'll see whether that's going to change here. Maybe we'll see a war. That always tends to be pretty good for oil prices. Although there's been very little reaction this year to the wars in either the Middle East or in Ukraine, which of course is affecting the oil supply, as Russia is a big supplier. In the last, I am wondering whether the recent gains that we've seen are due to Ukraine knocking out about 20% of Russia's oil capacity over the last couple of months. We will see. All right, looking at natural gas, I'm leaning towards this going higher. We are holding the monthly middle band at the moment. No real meaningful divergence on the monthly chart, nothing really on the weekly chart, nothing on the daily chart either after the last sell signal made target. Do we have a possible IHS here? Yes, we do. Having said that, the decent looking IHS was this one here that formed, and then we've come back, formed a deep right shoulder. I would say this looks kind of more to me as though this is actually a bear flag forming. We'll see how that goes, but I really prefer this as an IHS before it made the second right shoulder, because normally there's only one. So this doesn't look like one to me, but it could technically qualify. If we see a sustained breakup from here, then I'll be calling it that, and I'll call it pushing the targets. Until then, I'm wondering about a flag and looking at the obvious resistance at the 200 DMA, currently 3.48 area. All right, let's have a look at precious metals. All right, GC. Right, GC has me wondering whether we're going to see a retest of this high here. I'm wondering if we might see a little bit of a retracement here. I am seeing a couple of indications, but what I would say is when we broke up over the 41, 42 area, I did say the obvious next big target was the retest of the all-time high at 49.51, and we've been making an awful lot of progress on the way there, and we're not there yet. I'm even more leaning towards that being the next target on silver, and what I would note is we're not there yet. On palladium, We've seen a nice little move up. Not sure how sustainable that is. We've got a 6-minute sell signal fixed. If we didn't have one already, we'd have another one brewing. On platinum, I think we've seen a break up, and quite a serious one. We broke over the big resistance that I had. We've got a possible 60-minute sell signal brewing here, but I'm thinking this is probably going a lot higher. There's room for a bit of a retracement here, but I'm not really thinking in something that was particularly impressive. In terms of HG, the 60-minute sell signals reached possible near miss target. I'm still leaning towards this forming some kind of a flag, or at least I'm not seeing anything else that makes much sense. We'll see how that goes. All the monthly pivots. I'm not really seeing the monthly pivots at big levels at the moment because, of course, we've only got them for another couple of days. All right, let's have a look at the bigger picture charts on that. Okay, gold. I've got this log chart here showing the possible target trend lines. We're going through this one here. Not leaning towards that being a bearish overthrow, so I'm looking at another one up here, which I think would be around, I don't know, 43, 4400 area. And here, possibly optimistically, I was speculating that at the start of 27, this resistance trend line will be in the 7200 area. That would actually be my preferred one. Although arguably this one here is of better quality. We'll see how that goes. But in the short term, we have lost our negative divergence on the RSI 14. This is the monthly chart, so it's not that easy losing the divergence on it. We've almost lost the divergence on the RSI 5. Another up month, and we'll probably have lost it. We've seen a big move up here. This started at 1809, and it's at 3800 at the moment. And this has been a very impressive move. Looking at the weekly chart, possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, but this has been going up and up and up. You can see on the standard scale chart, we went through all my resistance quite a while ago. And I've written no obvious resistance above here for the past few months. Looking at the daily chart, we have got some indication that we might see some retracement. We've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed, and a full-size RSI 5 sell signal brewing. I'm wondering about some retracement here, but I'm not seeing anything compelling saying that we're about to see it. On silver, we had decent resistance here. It tested, it held for a while, and then it broke. Since then, we've seen a very strong move up towards the all-time high at 49.51, and I think there's a pretty good chance it's going to make it before this move ends, and very possibly just go on straight from there. Looking at the weekly chart, again, you can see the big trend line. Again, you can see the break. And again, you can see the targets getting pretty close. Looking at the daily chart, we had an RSI 14 sell signal, which failed. We've got an RSI 5 sell signal, which is very, very close to failing and may well fail. I've seen some very, very strong moves from silver in the past. I mean, admittedly, the strongest one probably need to go back 15 years, but, nonetheless, some really, really, really strong moves. And this is looking like a very strong move, and I'm not seeing any obvious reason to think that it's about to finish. Looking at palladium. Palladium. We've got some resistance here. We haven't reached it, and I'm wondering if we might have another go up and reach it. I've got that currently in about the 1460 area, and that's a potential target. In terms of the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed here. Not really been delivering anything, and I'm thinking that we're getting close enough, and I'm really thinking a retest of the high here at 1373 is a very serious target. That could be the second time a double top, and equally I'd be looking at the resistance just beyond. Okay, platinum. Monthly chart, we had a bit of negative divergence and we've lost it. We've got a big resistance level here and we've broken it. Now, I'm leaning towards this being an IHS which is broken up. And if it is an IHS which is broken up, the obvious target for it is a retest of this high here at 2290. That would be a big move. That was a high that we made, I think, in 2008. It's a long time ago, but I think this is a target which can get us all the way back here. It could still fail, but precious metals got a following wind. I think they could go up an awful lot more. And I think, frankly, President Trump is probably their best friend, i.e. his policies are suggesting that precious metals are going to be attractive for quite a while yet. I'm thinking this can go considerably higher, so I'm taking this IHS target seriously. In terms of the weekly chart, we've got a possible RSI 14 sell signal brewing, possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing, and nothing compelling suggesting we're about to turn around. Although a breakover in an IHS like this, you quite often get a bull flag form and then go higher. So there is some case for a retracement here. RSI 14 sell signal fixed and delivering absolutely nothing. on the daily chart. I'm liking the upside on this. All right, copper. Copper, we saw a big move up here. There was a lot of stuff over the tariffs, 50% tariff that Trump imposed. Nothing, no divergence on the monthly or the weekly. On the daily chart, no divergence either. I think this has been a bear flag forming, although I was a little disconcerted at this move up into the 4.878 high. This could be something else forming, but I think really the next obvious big target is a retest this low here at 4.31. That could be the second low of a double bottom, but really I'd be leaning towards it, heading down towards this trend line here. We've got some really nice resistance trend line up here, and usually these have friends, and this is the obvious one to hit. I've got that currently in the 4.1 area. All right, GDX. GDX is looking very overbought on the weekly chart, but wow, what a run. Would I be wanting to get in front of this train? No, I wouldn't. On the daily chart, we've got some nice negative divergence, weak RSI5 sell signal fixed, full size RSI5 sell signal brewing, possible rather spiky RSI14 sell signal brewing. Do I think this means that a retracement is imminent? No. It means there's some support for retracement if we see it, but certainly I wouldn't be holding my breath waiting. And I wouldn't be standing on the train tracks waiting either. In terms of the hourly chart, no current divergence. GDXJ looks very much the same. Pretty oversold, but no negative divergence on the weekly charts. We've got quite a lot of negative divergence on the daily charts, and we've got nothing really on the hourly charts. I'm liking... Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see this go considerably higher. It's been a hell of a run, and there's nothing really to suggest that it's finished. All right, let's have a look at the other commodities. Okay, KC. KC, we've got a potential inverted head and shoulders forming here, and I'm wondering about a possible retest of this high here in the 4.2, just under 4.25. 60-minute buy signal has reached the possible near miss target. Could this be a bear flag forming? Possibly, but it wouldn't be a well-formed one. Looking at SB, SB, I'm thinking that we could be looking at a big low here. This could be a double bottom. A break over this level here could be a larger double bottom. Then this could be a small IHS giving us to the second pattern. I like it. It's a nice looking IHS, and it's broken up with a target in the 16.83 area, and I'm thinking it may well make it. Next double bottom resistance is about 16.87. Sustained break up over that, and we'll be looking to retest this high up in about the 17.7 area. I'm liking the upside here. I've been talking about this as something which could really deliver a big move to the upside. Okay, CC. Potential double bottom here. We actually have a pretty decent looking double bottom here, so it's only small, but I'm thinking it might deliver, and we've got a 60-minute buy signal backing it up. CT, possible double bottom forming. No current divergence. Lumber, we made target on the 60-minute buy signal. We have broken up on the double bottom with a possible target area in about the 618 to 628 area, and waiting to see if that might deliver. Not looking at the monthly pivot as obvious resistance, because by the time it's reached, chances are it will no longer be the monthly pivot. On ZW sell signals reach target pretty much, so nice looking potential double bottom, which I'm thinking might play out. Corn, this looks like a bull flag forming at the moment. We had a double bottom breakdown. That doesn't look as though it's got a lot of legs in it, to be honest. But I'm thinking that we might see a lower low within an overall bull flag forming. Liking the upside on both wheat and corn, much less so on soy. But short term, this is quite a promising falling megaphone, suggesting that we might get back to falling megaphone resistance currently in about the 104.8 area. Soybean oil, we had a nice looking IHS which broke up here. It failed, rejected back into the low. 60-minute buy signals reached possible near miss target. Not looking, well, kind of looks as though it might come back and retest this low. Not really seeing an awful lot else on it. Live cattle, this looks an awful lot like a triangle. And I think it may well be a bullish triangle forming. So if that's the case, A, B, C, D, E, and then likely a retest to the high. We'll see. HE, I've got a nice looking rising megaphone here. It's been toying with the idea of breaking up from it, but it hasn't broken up from it. We've retested the resistance again. If this turns back down to megaphone support, I've got that currently in about the 85.65 area, and I'm thinking it may be heading there. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. And bear with me. Right. Okay, looking at coffee. Coffee, we've got a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the weekly. Really, I'd like to see a retest of this high here at 4.408. So if it is heading back up for a retest of the high, then a little further, you'd retest this high and set up a really nice looking big double top, which I think could well play out because we are a long way above the traditional places where the coffee price plays. So a return back down into what would that be? That would be sustained breakdown below 2.7. Would have a target in about the 1 area. And actually, we don't have to go back far to see us trading between 0.9 and 1.3. I wouldn't be astonished to see that. Looking at coffee on the daily chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed, but I'm wondering about a retest of the high. If so, we're going to need to get back over the daily middle band, which is at 3.87. Looking at sugar, RSI 14 sell signal fixed, almost made the possible near miss target on the monthly chart. And I would note that we do have this rather apocalyptic head and shoulder pattern, which is broken down with a target in the 6.529 area. But shorter term, this is looking a lot more promising. We've got an RSI 5 buy signal fixed on the weekly. We've got this lovely looking falling wedge, which has underthrown slightly and looks like it may be bottoming out. Apologies for the sniffling. Next obvious target would be a move up into the trendline resistance in the 18.5 area. A break above that, and this whole thing could be a bull flag setting up a retest of this high at 28.14. Looking at the daily chart, we've got an RSI 5 buy signal, which has reached possible near miss target. Weak RSI 14 buy signal has fixed as well. Liking the upside, plenty of support, nice pattern setup. I like it. So we shall see. Sorry, I'm just altering that while we're here. All right, let's have a look at cocoa. Right, cocoa as well has been a long way outside its traditional comfort zone in terms of price. And I am wondering, I'm not seeing this as a double top really, it's too big. This is, but I am thinking that we might be seeing a reversion to the mean, which could take us a long way lower. We are getting pretty close to this support level at 64.2749. If we see a sustained break below that, well, I'll be liking the downside. All right, looking at the monthly chart, we are on RSI 14 sell signal, which has some way to go. Looking at the daily chart, we had a buy signal that made target. We do have a potential little level bottom here, but I really wouldn't be surprised to see this just continue downwards. And we're holding the daily middle band as resistance. If we are going to see a sustained break to the upside, I'd like to see that broken and converted into support, and that is at 72.41.55. Looking at wheat, nice looking nested double bottom setup here. I'm really thinking this could go up a long way. Potentially, this could reach this 2024 high up here in about the 720 area. So I like it. Let's see how it goes. On corn, we've got potential big double bottom here too. Haven't broken up over this declining resistance, which I would like to see next. But if we do, then I'm thinking this double bottom really has a shot. Now, soy, I mentioned this was different. We've got in the short term, we've got a weak RSI 14 sell signal fixed and a weak RSI 5 sell signal fixed on corn. That is worth noting for the time being. That might just be because we're forming a bull flag here, waiting to see. We do have an open IHS target, which is up in the 445 area. Okay, looking at soybeans. The reason I'm not feeling so bullish here is while we have broken up from a big falling wedge from the 2022 high, this looks like a bear flag. It looks a lot like a bear flag. And if it is a bear flag, then this is likely to require a retest to this low here at 93606 before it goes higher. We will see whether that delivers, but at the moment, that's the best pattern I've got on it, and it looks pretty nice, and I've been following it for months. Cotton, we've broken up as well. Here, I'm not looking for a reversal pattern, and we've got a potential double bottom here. What we haven't got is cotton moving towards that double bottom resistance, but I'm leaning towards seeing that. We will see how that goes. I'm liking the upside here. Might we see another test of the lows before we see that? Possibly, but I'm liking it straight higher. We don't have an awful lot of support for that, but we do have a weekly RSI 14 weak RSI 14 buy signal fixed. We'll see how that goes. Looking at lumber, Lumber, I've got overall bear flag here, and then within that bear flag, we saw this second high here at 69850. That set up a double top. That double top broke down. We're rallying from the break at the moment, and we're testing the fairly important weekly middle band at 610.51, and we're slightly below it. This would seem an obvious place to fail back lower again. Looking at the daily chart, we've got a possible RSI 5 sell signal brewing, still got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed. We'll see how that goes. Comfortably over the daily middle band. If we are going to go lower, and we've got a potential little level top here, then I'd like to see a break below the daily middle band at 55737, and then a move from there. So we shall see. All right, let's have a look at crypto. Now, crypto, now here, this is a sort of inverted mirror of what we're looking at here. It got started earlier than the retracement on equities, and it may have already finished, but really, ideally, it would go down a bit lower. I was looking at these trend lines here, this open double top target down in the 99-100K area. It hasn't reached any of those. This could be a triangle forming, but I haven't got a decent looking triangle here. I'm wondering, with one of the reasons I'm thinking equities might have another leg down coming is because I'm thinking that crypto may have another leg down coming. Maybe it'll just go up from here. It might do, but we will see. In terms of the daily chart, we haven't actually managed to get back over the daily middle band yet, and I've got that at 114.034. Might be going back to back test that. I've also got the 50 DMA at 113.700. Needs to get back over that resistance to set up another move towards the high. I wouldn't be surprised to see another leg down on the way. All right, looking at Solana. Solana, we've got the daily middle band at 226. We are a long way below it, although we are back up to testing the 50 DMA at 209.20. Back where more or less on it as I speak. Weak RSI 14 sell signal reached the possible near miss target. Here, we had a double top. It made the target. I was looking at a nice looking support setup. Double support in the 180 area. So far, we've made it down to 190. It may be that's all that's there, but I wouldn't be surprised to see it make that 180 target and hold it there. In terms of buy signals, we had an RSI 14 buy signal, but that's obviously more than made target on Bitcoin. We had another one on Solana, and that is more than made target. On Ethereum, we had one as well, and that's more than made target. So we've made all the short-term buy signals. I am wondering whether we might go a bit lower. We've got a very nice support level down here on Ethereum at 3,500, and we've got a head and shoulder target, which is there. So again, I'm wondering whether it's going to reach those before it rises. We shall see how that goes. All right, in that case, that's a wrap. I'll catch you guys again on Wednesday, and everyone take care.